A very warm welcome to this webinar, which is about wind power from around the world. It's my great pleasure to welcome you all to this webinar, which has been made possible by Windplus, one of our members supporting us, that we can offer this information for free. My name is Stefan Gsänger. I'm Secretary General of the World Wind Energy Association, and it's my great pleasure that we have today speakers from almost all the top 10 markets from around the world who will give first-hand information about the status of wind power in their countries. Before we start, I would just like to let you know that this is a public event, so this webinar will be published on the YouTube channel of the World Wind Energy Association. So whenever you raise your hand, whenever you speak, be aware that in principle everybody can hear you. Yeah, as long as you are not speaking, as long as you're not requested to raise a question, please remain muted so that there is no disturbing background sound. With this, it's my pleasure to hand over to Dr. Irfan Mirza, President of the World Wind Energy Association. Irfan, please, floor is yours to welcome the participants.
Thank you, Stefan. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished colleagues, partners, and friends from across the globe. It is my honor and privilege to welcome you all to this important WWEA webinar. As President of the World Wind Energy Association, I extend my warmest greetings and heartfelt appreciation to each of you for joining us today. We gather at a pivotal time for the global wind energy sector. The 2024 WWEA annual report reminds us that this year has been challenging and enlightening at the same time. Global wind power capacity has now surpassed an impressive 1,173 gigawatts, with 121 gigawatts added in 2024. However, this is slightly below the last year's figures, and we have seen an 18% decline in new installation outside of China. Yet, amid these challenges, China's extraordinary contribution, accounting for over 70% of the global new capacity, alongside Brazil's rise to the second largest wind market, gives us hope and inspiration. These examples demonstrate what's possible when political commitment, industrial capacity, and community engagement align. At WWEA, we believe that wind power is not just about megawatts. It's about people, equity, and sustainability. As we look ahead, wind energy will serve as a cornerstone of hybrid renewable energy systems, working in synergy with solar, storage devices, and green hydrogen. The path forward must also prioritize community benefits and local participation and fairness, especially as we work to counter, this is very, very important as far as we are concerned these days, to counter misinformation and opposition in some regions. This is why our Community Engagement Council is actively drafting the new international guidelines, aiming to ensure that wind projects around the world are inclusive, transparent, and welcomed by the communities they serve. Friends, while some nations have slowed their pace, the path to 100% renewable remains open. This is what my friend Stefan demanded after COP28 as well. When they announced their challenge, we said we want 100% renewables. With clarity of vision, courage in leadership, and unity of purpose, we can and will accelerate the transition to a just, green, and resilient energy future. Let us use today's dialogue to share insights, solve challenges, and deepen our global collaboration. Looking ahead, I am pleased to remind you that World Wind Energy Conference 2025 will be held in Shantou, China this December. A timely opportunity to celebrate achievements and strengthening global cooperation at the heart of the world's most dynamic wind market. Thank you once again for your presence and commitment. I wish you all a productive and inspiring webinar. Thank you very much, and let's see how. Thank you. Over to you, Stephen.
Thank you very much, Irfan. And let me mention that you are now joining us from the United Arab Emirates, originally coming from Pakistan. So I think that's also relevant. We really have speakers now from around the world. And I'm based in Bonn in Germany, and now we have you joining us from the UAE. Now, before we continue with the speakers covering some of the countries, I want to give you an overview of where we stand globally. And you will also maybe understand better why it is so important that we also focus on particular the countries we are here now. So wind power around the world, it's an amazing success story. When we look back, I mean, we'd say that modern wind technology started around 45 years ago. Actually, the first windmill that we know today generated power, electricity, was in 1883 in Vienna, in Austria. And then in the 19th century, there were some first efforts, and then between the First and Second World War. But modern wind power, as we know it today, saw an impressive growth since around 1980, and today we have an installed capacity of 1.17 million megawatt. We cover more than 10% of the global electricity demand. What I've indicated here, what I marked here, is every time the installed capacity increased in tenfold. So you see that at the beginning it took 2 years from 10 to 100 megawatt. Then it took 3 years from 100 to 1000 megawatt. It took, quite some time, 13 years to reach the 10,000 megawatt. It then, very dynamic time at the beginning of this century, 9 years to reach 100,000, and now we've crossed just 2 years ago the 1 million megawatt. So the cumulated wind power, the growth was still very impressive in the last decade, almost a threefold increase. The new installed capacity, we see a little bit up and down. That was last year a little bit less than what was predicted and expected by many of our members. A little bit lower. Well, I mean, the final numbers can still vary a little bit because sometimes numbers are corrected, but it's more or less what was installed in the year 2023. Projects were delayed in 2024, so we expect there will be more growth in the year 2025. Looking at the countries, and I'm not going into detail, we have, aside from France, Sweden, we have all the countries represented here today. It's, of course, very impressive when you look at those top markets. There was a change last year. Spain was for many years number 5 and it's been overtaken now by Brazil. Brazil is the first South American country which joined not only the top 10, but now the top 5 markets. Of course, very impressive the growth that we see in China, which is now representing, it's coming close to half of the world's installed capacity. I will go briefly back to the countries. We see that there was not in all markets new growth. I mean, bigger, more installations than in the previous year. But especially when we look into the added capacity, 72% was installed in China alone. So when we now hear soon from our colleague in China, that's where we are. That means that China is doing a great job. That means that other countries should improve and accelerate a little bit. With this, that's my short kind of overview of where we stand globally so that everybody understands a bit better the importance of various markets. Let me already invite you to our 22nd World Wind Energy Conference, which will take place this year, indeed in China, which is now, we have to say, the center of the global wind industry. The call for abstracts is still open by end of this week, so everybody is invited to make use of this opportunity and then meet in the city of Shantou, which is a manufacturing hub for the Chinese wind industry. With this, thank you so far for your attention. If there are any direct questions, comments, feel free to let me now know. I think the best is if you raise your hand here. You can do this after every speaker. And now let's directly go to China, which has an impressive role. It's my pleasure to welcome Mr. Jian Li from the Chinese Wind Energy Association. Are you with us? Can you hear me? And then I'll
Yes, I
just...
can hear you. So I would like to share by myself.
Yes, please do so.
Okay.
So you can share your screen now and please try that. And then we look forward to hearing about Chinese developments.
I need to restart my Zoom, so I will come back in 10 seconds.
Okay. Does it take 10 seconds? Otherwise, we would start with the next speaker.
Okay.
Yeah?
So I need to restart.
Then I would say Dr. Karunamoorthy from the Indian Wind Power Association is with us. I would suggest that we start with the now with the largest country of the world by population, which is also an impressive one of the earliest pioneers in wind power, India. Dr. Karunamoorthy, then I would like to invite you to start your presentation if you are ready.
Yeah, thank you, Stefan. I am ready. May I?
Yes, please.
Okay. Yeah. Sure.
So, Mr. Jian Li, we start now with India.
Yeah, is my screen visible?
Yes.
Okay. So let me start. Yeah. Thank you, Stefan. Thank you, WWEA, all members and President, Secretary General. Thank you for this opportunity to present from India. Wind power in India, trends and outlook. Yeah. So I am going to cover in my presentation wind power installed capacity state-wise, onshore wind power installation year-wise, key business models in India onshore, key policies versus purpose onshore, electricity generation from wind sources, state-wise repowering possibilities in onshore, benefits of repowering project, offshore wind potential zones, key business models, offshore wind power, offshore wind energy. I mean, it's a quick update I am going to give. Turbine manufacturers. This is as per the RLMM, that is the revised list of models and manufacturers listed. Then independent power producers in India, IPPs. Challenges, barriers, onshore and offshore. And I will end with the conclusion and target of India. Yes. So this is the current installed capacity in our country. That is, we have crossed 50 gigawatt last financial year as of March 2025. We have a 9 RE rich states, that is 9 windy states, I can say, 9 regions in India. Number 1 is Gujarat, which has 12 plus gigawatt of installation, followed by Tamil Nadu, 11 plus gigawatt, then Karnataka, then Maharashtra, Andhra, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan. These are the 9 regions we have all wind power installed. So cumulatively, we have crossed 50 gigawatt as of 31st March 2025. The source is from Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. Yeah. Now, the onshore wind power project installation, year-wise, how it has happened in India. See, for the past 10 to 12 years, I have covered in the presentation. So 2014 to 15, we were about 2 gigawatt plus only we were developing, and then slowly, it has grown like anything. Then 3,400 megawatt, and then 5.5 gigawatt. After that, that is 17, 18, there was a, the bidding regime started. Bidding means earlier there was a, the bidding, that is reverse action started from 17 and 18. during 2017 to 18, so that the installation capacity got reduced. Till 2017, we had a state-wise policies, and we had a PPA in place, power purchase agreement. Everything was in place by the state governments. From 17 onwards, there was a reverse action, that is bidding scheme started, so that the installation capacity got reduced. Then it was slowly taken on in 1920. Then the pandemic, Corona. So all this effect you can see in this, right? 2021, 2020, 21, 22, it reduced again. Then 22, 23, it got picked up. Then 23, 24, it got picked up. Last year, we could reach 4,000 megawatt or 4 gigawatt plus. But this year, this current financial year, in April, in 1 month itself, 1 gigawatt installation has happened. Okay, that is a tremendous growth we have. I mean, this financial year started only in April last month, April 25. In that particular month, 1 gigawatt already installed. So that means we can, expect this year, this financial year 25-26, maybe more than definitely 8 or 9 gigawatt we are expecting. Sorry, slide, yeah. Now, key business models onshore. So what are the business model we have it in India? So one is tariff-based competitive bidding, that is TBCB model, and then captive power, then group captive, then third party. These are the 4 business models in onshore we have in India. So tariff-based competitive bidding means it is, whatever the state requirement, the power demand, they go to tell the center, and center will come up with the bidding. Then whoever is, bidding for the lowest tariff cost, they will be awarded the project. That is TBCB, tariff-based competitive bidding. Then captive power model. I mean, who wants to consume the power for their own captive, this model they can follow. Then group captive, there's a group of the captive consumers. They can, design the project and submit to the government. They will be awarded the approvals. Then third party sale model, that is BPTA, that is nothing but bulk power transmission agreement. I mean, the asset owner may be different, but the power consumer may be different. That model also working in India. These are the 4 business models in onshore we have. Then the key policies versus purpose onshore. So what was the purpose? What was the policy mechanism, the driver, and the category? The category, there are some 10 categories. So start with the state specific policies, state wind policies. What is the policy mechanism? State wind policies. The purpose is land infrastructure and incentives. We are still getting the accelerated depreciation benefit in India, 40%. Then hybrid policy we have. Wind solar hybrid policy, 2018 onwards, it is in place for past 7 years. So it is promoting co-located hybrid renewable projects. Then RPO obligation we have. State specific, we have a RPO obligation, that is renewable purchase obligations. It is mandated for renewable procurement. Then grid and transmission, ISTS waiver. I mean, the projects which are getting connected in, this one exempted. It will be exempted if they are connected in interstate transmission charges. So as I mentioned in my previous slides, we have 9 regions in India. So you can put anywhere the projects, and you can consume the power in any other states. That is called interstate transmission. So if the project is connected this way, ISTS, then it will be waiver. Then the infrastructure, green energy corridor, build special power transmission lines to carry electricity generated from the RE sources. Land and clearances, single window clearance for the land allotment. It has reduced bureaucratic delays. Then energy access. Green energy open access rules are there, allowed consumers to buy renewable energy directly. Then manufacturing support, that is PLI, production linked incentive our government is giving, which has boost domestic wind equipment manufacturing. And then finance and investments, green bonds, low interest loans. The purpose is ease of project finance. Micrositing, amendment of micrositing guidelines. So that has been, really useful at this moment, because the purpose is flexible to select inner turbine distance for efficient land utilization. Because land is the main criteria for developing the wind power project. So our government has focused on this also. The purpose is very well defined. We have such a 10 specific categories with and which has a policy mechanism with a purpose. Then the electricity generation from wind sources. If you start from my previous slide also, from past 12 years I have taken, from 2014 to 15, there are about 33,000 million units. This generation has happened. So slowly it has increased, and at this moment our generation from the wind sources is 83,000 million units in India. 83,385 million units. Then state-wise repowering possibilities. So I said, we are blessed with about 9 regions or 9 states in India. For the repowering possibilities, Tamil Nadu, I have categorized up to 0.5 megawatt, what is the potential available, and 0.5 to 1, 1 to 1.5, 1.5 to 2, and then below 2 megawatt. Right? Tamil Nadu, if you take total overall repowering possibilities, 7 gigawatt we have. The another region, Maharashtra 3 gigawatt, Karnataka 3 gigawatt, Gujarat 4 gigawatt, Rajasthan again 3 gigawatt, Madhya Pradesh. These are the regions. So overall, put together, we have a 25 gigawatt of repowering possibilities. Up to below 2 megawatt. So we have I have listed up to 0.5 how much is there, 0.5 to 1 how much is there, 1 to 1.5 what is the possibility, 1.5 to 2 megawatt what is the possibility, below 2 megawatt what is the possibility. I have categorized in these 5 categories. So totally, cumulatively, we have a 25 gigawatt repowering possibilities in onshore. So benefits, again, repowering, benefits of repowering projects in India. REC, PFC, IREDA, that is, Renewable Energy Certificates, and PFC, Power Finance Corporation, IREDA, Indian Renewable Energy Development Agency, will provide loans on same terms as new projects. Okay, the terms will be same as the new projects, though we are going for the repowering projects. The incentives for the repowering projects. For repowering projects, IREDA will provide an additional interest rate rebate of 0.25% to promote repowering. So over and above the rate applicable to the new wind power projects as an incentive. Then micrositing. Developers have liberty for micrositing based on optimized energy output. So these are the benefits our government is giving for repowering projects. There is a liberty for micrositing. And then coming to offshore wind power potential zones. So this we have 2 states. One is in 2 regions, I can say. One is in Tamil Nadu, the another is in Gujarat. Both are having 35 gigawatt of offshore wind potential, our coast. Okay, the demarcated offshore wind potential zones at Tamil Nadu, this one. Okay, we have this much potential discovered, cumulatively 35 gigawatt. And this the right side one picture shows the Gujarat offshore potential, which is 36 gigawatt. These are the zones specified. So A zone, B zone, D zone, E zone. So I will tell you what those zones are for. Yeah. So this is key business model for offshore wind power in India. What is rightly available for the investors. So what is the business model? And site identification. We have 3 models actually: Model A, Model B, Model C, as per the offshore wind power policy. So site identification for in Model A, government will help. Model B, again government. Model C, developer. Within EZ, excluding A and B sites. Apart from this Model A and B, Model C will be covered. Then the financial support here, yes. And in Model A, we have a viability gap fund option also. Model B and C, we don't have. Site exclusivity during the survey, it is not applicable. Government does the survey. Here in Model B, yes. C, but exclusivity. Model C, no. Likewise, there are 3 models. So each models have its specifics as per the offshore wind power policy of the country. This we have taken as some summary. So lease period, this is very important. Okay, here also the power offtake. Here government will take, here model B in open access, and the model C open access, captive, third party, and government. All four options are available for power offtake. The lease period, operational phase, model A 35 years, model B operational for entire operational life, model C again 35 years. Initial target capacity mentioned in model A 1 gigawatt, that is by government 1 gigawatt will be implemented. Model B 14 gigawatt, that is first bid 4 gigawatt, second bid 3 gigawatt, like this.
If
And
you
model
could
C,
conclude in 2 minutes, please.
yeah, sorry, yeah. Last one slide, yeah. So offshore wind energy, that was the update. I have tabularized, yes. And right now the turbine manufacturers in India, so these are the turbine manufacturers and the IPPs, independent power producers in India, right? And the challenges and barriers onshore, yeah, delay in land acquisition, right of way, delay in obtaining grid connectivity due to inadequate power infrastructure, delays in execution of PPS and PSS. PPS is power purchase agreement, PS is power supply agreement, and center stage coordination. I mean, between center and state, coordination gap is there. In offshore, the barriers are high initial investment cost, complex clearance and regulatory process, limited grid infrastructure, uncertain market viability, and tariff acceptance. It had to mature in Indian industry. Long timelines for commissioning. So conclusion is the target is not far if precise planning and accurate policies are in place. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was a very comprehensive overview of the Indian market, and I think encouraging news. I think you said that this year you expect 8 to 9 gigawatt of new
Exactly.
installed capacity, which will certainly bring you to the second.
This one.
Will
Yes,
be the
yes.
second largest market for this year. Yeah, we have any brief questions at the moment to Dr. Karunamoorthy? Then I would like to.
Yeah.
Any questions? Raise your hands, please. If that's not the case, I would like again thank you very much. You stay with us if there's another question coming up later, and we move now to China. Now we wanted to start with China, but I believe. Oh no, sorry. I see one hand raised here, Dr. Irfan Mirza, just before we start with China.
Yeah, thank you, Stefan. Just one question, Dr. Karunamoorthy. You still give the government still give the first year accelerated depreciation to wind power projects? I missed that part or misunderstood somehow, so I thought I should get a clarification.
It is 40% is still there. 40%.
40% is still there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
So,
yes.
so for big industrialists and big companies, this is a very good incentive for tax, I believe.
Yeah, it is into the depreciation. Yes, AD, accelerated depreciation. Yes.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to both of you. And now let's go to China, as we wanted to start initially, and I think you're back now. Mr. Jian Li from the Chinese Wind Energy Association, the floor is yours.
Okay, so can you see my screen?
Yes, it's
okay.
If you try the presentation mode, at the moment it's
okay. Okay.
Perfect.
So, good morning and good afternoon to my colleague all around the world. And I'm Li Jian, and I'm from China Wind Energy Association. And today is glad to have this opportunity to share some latest development in China. China new wind power installed capacity in 2024 comes to 87 gigawatts, and by the end of 2024, China's cumulative installed capacity of wind power exceed 562 gigawatts. And for the offshore wind power, China also drives global growth. By the end of 2024, the cumulated connected installed capacity of offshore wind power is about 41 gigawatts. And among China's coastal provinces, Guangdong province has a cumulated grid connected capacity of 12 gigawatts, surpassing Jiangsu for the first time and ranking first. And for the accumulated installed capacity, wind power accounts for the proportion of total installed power generation capacity from 0.1% in 2000 to breakthrough 1% in 2008 to breakthrough 10% in 2019 and has now exceeded 15%, a 5-year increase for about 5%. And in 2024, the proportion of wind power generation was nearly 10% right now. And also in recent years, the price of wind turbine has generally declined. The average price of onshore wind turbine decreased from 3,800 Chinese yuan per kilowatt to in 2019 to 400 Chinese yuan per kilowatt hour in 2024. It's dropped about 60%. And for the price of offshore wind turbine, the price comes to 2,775 Chinese yuan per kilowatt in 2024, and it's dropped about 58%. And just in this year, Chinese government gives a policy about renewable energy, and this policy is try to transfer the fixed price to the fixed price policy to the totally market trading price policy. And just in by the end of 2024, Chinese government tried to initiate a mixed approach of minimum guaranteed hours and market and trading policy, and we want to finally reach to a complete market trading policy. And for the Chinese wind turbine, also have surprised across more than 50 countries on 6 continents. And in 2023, China export 3.6 gigawatts machine. And when the time comes to 2024, the number become 5.2 gigawatts. The increase is also fast. And China is also the largest production base for components and materials. And among most of the components, China's production of generators, hubs, castings, forgings, and key components such as blades, gearboxes, bearings account for more than 60 to 70% of the global market right now. And we can see from this graph, most of the it shows the whole industry chain of the wind power, and most of part China can produce by ourselves, and some of them also need to cooperate with international cooperators. And for the trend of the wind turbine, it become bigger, higher, and smarter. I give some numbers here for the monitoring parameters and channels. The number comes from 150 to 4,500. For the intelligent monitoring models, the number comes from 10 to 60, and for the codes, control codes, it comes from 50,000 lines to 5 million lines. And also the hub hat of the wind machine also increase as we know, the biggest one right now comes to 190 meters for the hub hat. And right now here the pictures shows the biggest offshore wind turbine and the biggest onshore wind turbine. For the onshore wind turbine, the biggest one is Sanyi right now, and it comes to 15 megawatts. And for the offshore wind turbine, the largest one is Dongfang Electricity 26 megawatts offshore wind turbine, and it's just released. And for the Goldwind 16 megawatts machine and Mingyang 18 megawatts machine, they are all connected to the grid right now. And for the floating offshore wind program, China has now have 5 test program, and these 5 program are in demonstration stage. And also for the key components, there are a lot of new technologies used in these components. Here I show some breakthroughs in last year. The first one is China General Certification Center has complete a static testing of Goldwind's 147-meter blade, and the second one is a 16 to 20 megawatts offshore fully integrated transmission chain wind powered gearbox from Nangaochi has rolled off the production line. And the third one is the Southern Aerospace has produced the world's largest 26 megawatts offshore wind power gearbox. And next one is CRRC. Is 20 megawatts semi-direct drive parameter magnet wind turbine generator has rolled off the production line. And the last two is a 25 megawatts class wind power main shaft bearings and gearbox bearing from ZYTC rolled off the product line. And Sungrow has launched the wind power converter with a voltage level of 1,800 voltage for the first time. And also for the construction and installation capacity of offshore wind power projects have been continuously improving as well. Here I show 4 examples. The first one is Daqiao Haifeng installation platform. The maximum working water depth comes to 70 meters, and the maximum lifting height is 150 meters, and its lifting capacity comes to 2,000 tons. And the second one is Erhang Changqing peeling ship. The total length is 130 meters. The model brace is 40 meters, and the model depth is 8.4 meters. The next one is Qifan 19 cable laying ship. The maximum cable carrying capacity comes to 10,000 tons, and the maximum depth is 4.5 meters. The laying accuracy is 0.5 meters. And the last one is the SOV operation and maintenance mothership. The number of berths of in accommodation is 100. The length of the ship is 93.4 meters. The modeled brace is 90 meters, and the self-sufficiency is more than 30 days. And because of the fast development of wind turbine, the innovation of China's wind power industry requires support of the public platforms. Here we show the 40 megawatts class electricity and dynamics 6 degree of freedom experimental platform for wind turbines being constructed in Shantou, Guangdong. And also here we show 2 testing and certification centers of blades. The first one located in Yangjiang, Guangdong. It is the first national level public service platform for inspection and testing of offshore wind power equipment in China. And it can conduct the skill test on 150-meter blades. And the second one is located in Dafeng, Yancheng, Jiangsu province. it can complete the testing of 180-meter blades. And the next step of Chinese wind power industry is aims to set up the full ability of support the globally wind construction. And we think next step, we need to cooperate with international cooperators to build the ability together. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. I think this was really impressive. And when I look at the blades that you've shown, I just had a look at the pictures. My first visit in China in 2004, when China was developing its first independently developed 1 megawatt blade. And now, yeah, we're talking about 25 megawatt blades. That's impressive. We, as I've already said, invite the world community to come to China and talk also with the Chinese colleagues and see how we can work together. And that was part of your last slide. Do we have any comments here to Mr. Jian Li? Direct questions or comments? That's not the case. Then again, thank you so much. And also congratulations for this fantastic success story, which, as I said, I mean, I've personally kind of been able also to watch many times visiting China. Now, thank you. And with this, I would like to now go to Europe. Reason is that our next speaker is a little bit time-wise not flexible, so we will now continue with Germany. And Germany, the by far largest market in Europe. One of the key players, I think, for now more than 20, 30 years, one of the technology leaders as well. Carlo, you are Managing Director of the German Wind Energy Association, and we're very happy to have you here with us. And I'd like to hand over to you and invite you to present the status of the German wind power market.
Yes, thank you, Stefan. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, it's great to be here again. Thank you for inviting me. And it was very interesting to see what happened around the world and what Mr. Li told about the market in China. And I remember the time when everybody was looking to Germany and said, oh, what they're doing there. They're building, they're one of the largest market or the largest market in the world. And now everybody is looking to China and saying, oh my God, what's happening there? And so it's great to see the development in the last 10, 20 years, what happened in the wind industry. And I'm now happy to give you a short overview what happened in Germany. I will try to share my screen. Let's see if it works. So can you see it?
That looks great, yes.
Great. So the German wind energy market. Let me shortly say a few words about the German Wind Energy Association. We have almost 20,000 members. And like when Irfan told in the beginning that it's not wind energy depends not only on technique and money, it's also the people that are important. What you can see that in our membership situation. From the beginning on, we started to think that we have to bring in the people into our association to have a high acceptance because we, like you know, we have 80 million people living in Germany, so we have not so much space like the US or China. So we are very close with our turbines to the cities, to the people, and so for us, and it is important to be connected to the people around the turbines. So therefore, that's a reason for the high membership rate in our association, and there are a lot of private, many private people are member of our association. Altogether, we have 3,300 companies which are have a membership, and most of them are the operators of the turbines, the owners of the wind turbines. And we are connected to Wind Europe, the European Renewable Energy Federation, and also to WWEA, to the international market. So what's the target? So is our target. The target in the Renewable Energy Source Act, the most important law in Germany, says that we will come to 150 gigawatt onshore until 2030. Right now we have 63.5 gigawatts, so there's a long way to go up to this. So what we need is at least 10 gigawatt annual tender volume every year. When you look what happened right now over the last years, right now, when we look just in the installation rate, we are under this 10 gigawatt. Last year we had new installed capacity onshore of 1.2 gigawatt. When you compare to 2023, it's going down a little bit. The reason for that is we had transport, the problems with the transport infrastructure. There's a big highway to the north, which was closed, and so we had problem to bring the rotor blades to the areas where we needed this to install the rotor blades. So that was one reason. The other reason was that we had time slots of high wind speeds, so that was a problem. So this is a reason why the installation rate was going down a little bit from 23 to 24. But at least we are not reaching the 10 gigawatts what we need to reach a target of the EEG in Germany. If you look in the development of hub height and rotor diameter and the power of the generators, you see that we are building up a higher turbines. We are right now in 22, the average was 143 meter. When you compare to China, we are not having a 180 meter tower right now. We have one in development close to Berlin, but it's the average. It's 143 megawatt, and the rotor diameter is 146 meter. Yeah, this is a development of the technique. One thing which is important when you look to Germany is, I mentioned it already last year, that the most turbines are installed in the north of Germany, especially in the close to the border to Denmark. We have, when you look, we have almost 600 kilowatt per square meter. And when you look in the south, when you look to Bavaria, we have 10 times less. And this is a problem because the industry in Germany most of the industry is in the south. So what we need, we have to connect these two areas. How can we do that? We can do that by building new grids from the north to the south to bring the wind power, the electricity power out of wind to the south. And the other thing we can do is we need flexibility. This is very important right now because it's not just the grid. We have to use more efficiently. And it's not only to build new grid capacity, it also means that we have to talk about storage. We have to talk about how can we use the electricity of wind power in the areas by using power to heat, by using mobility, and yeah, all this goes together with flexibility. And this is just the wind side. When you look to the solar side, we have the other way around. The most new solar capacity is installed in the south. So there we have this situation in summer that we have a lot of solar power produced in the south, and we have to bring it into the north. And yeah, this is the big challenge, the most biggest challenge we have in Germany right now. And we have to find ways to solve it. And one, like I told, one way to do is to use more flexibility. Yeah, as I told already, we have last year we had 3.2 gigawatt new installed capacity. But when we look into the future, it looks much better. Like what you see here is the average capacity, the bit capacity, and we have four bidding slots every year. Four bidding slots every year. And if you look at the last one in 2024, you see that it is going up very fast. So the tender volume, which was not reached when you look to 2019 or also 2020, it's reached in 2024. We have more bid capacity than tender volume, much more. So there are a lot of projects in line, but we have to bring them into development. So this sign is good for the German market, that we have a lot of new capacity which is coming into the market in the next year. And we hope everything is set up by the new government. We have a new government in Germany. Everything is set up by the new government that we will reach this target of 10 gigawatt. But right now, almost every party in Germany said that's the way we have to go. We need more wind power in Germany. Let me have a short view in the end to the offshore market. Like you mentioned, we have 63.5 gigawatt onshore capacity. The offshore capacity is now 9 gigawatt. So most of the turbines, also most of the new turbines, are installed onshore. But we have capacity also offshore. Here you see the offshore turbines in the North Sea in Germany. We have 7 gigawatt right now installed. These are the green circles here. And but we have a lot of capacity. These are gray circles are still in the tender, and so we will see in the North Sea that the growth is going up. Not so far when you compare to the onshore market, but it's going up. On the other side, we have the Baltic Sea, which right now we have 2 gigawatt installed capacity. Also there we have 2 new projects. But you see in the most important market in Germany is still the onshore market. It also depends because we also offshore. We have to bring the wind power into the south of the country. So we need net capacity, new net capacity to bring it in the south, or we use it for other ways, like for example to use it for produce hydrogen, and to go another way to transfer the wind and electricity. My last slide is giving you an overview about the German net power generation in 2024. We are very happy that we now over 50% of the electricity produced in Germany is coming out of renewables. Altogether, we had last year 62.7% out of renewables. Wind power onshore is the is the biggest is playing the biggest role in this. This was 26.8%, but solar is 14.2% is on the next level. So yeah, we're very happy to go to an area, and our idea of the association is for years to produce 100% of the electricity out of renewables in Germany, and we are pretty far. We're not so far away from that, and I hope I can show you one time in the next year's a slide where you see the 100% in the slide. So that was my short overview. Thank you very much, Stefan. Thank you very much, Irfan, for inviting me, and I hope I could give you a short overview of what happened in Germany.
Thank you very much, Carlo. I think that was an excellent overview as well. And it's good to see that Germany is really on the way, although not yet there, to achieve the 100% renewable energy as the third largest economy of the world. Although there are some issues that need to be solved, which I think you addressed very well. Do we have any questions, comments for Carlo? That seems not the case. I'm a bit rushing because I think very interesting presentations, but we still have now 5 to go. Carlo, thank you very much. Please stay with us if you can. And if there are any other questions, then please answer them. Yeah, with this, we now travel a bit back to the east, to the southern hemisphere, and it's my pleasure to welcome Monica Oliphant, who is our board member from Australia. Monica, with really many decades of experience in renewable energy, and it's my great pleasure, Monica, that you will speak about the Australian wind power market. Monica, may I hand over to you?
Thank you, and I would like to share screen, so I will.
Yes.
Can I start?
Yes.
Right. Oops.
Yeah, that's the.
Right. Good.
Yeah, excellent.
Thank you for inviting me, and I hope I can give you a good overview of Australia. So the growth in installed wind capacity here, certainly nowhere near as the other countries, but we only have a population of about 27 million people, and it has been steady growth over the last 10 years, and the size of our wind turbines in new wind farms is now of 5 to 7 megawatts each, whereas in the past it was round the 3 megawatts. And the contribution to electricity demand, wind is about 14%, and it compares with, it is the highest of all the renewables, 13.4% for rooftop solar. We're a very sunny country, so we have lots of rooftop solar, 7.2% utility solar, 5.5% hydro, and the total renewables in the past year was 40.2%, which is pretty reasonable considering 10 years ago it was only about 12%, mainly hydro. The location of wind farms and solar farms in Australia, the wind is green, solar yellow, hugs the coast, and our transmission system, which is 40,000 kilometres of transmission for 9 million customers going from the north. The national electricity grid goes from the north in Queensland round to South Australia, and then on the left-hand side is Western Australia with a 7,800 kilometre transmission system, and the two grids don't connect, because in the middle, and I did this picture for you of what it looks like for much of the middle, is what's known as the Nullarbor Plain, two Latin words, null meaning no, and arbor meaning tree. So there are not many trees or in that intervening space. We have no offshore wind farms right now, but some are in development, and it's likely that the first will be between Tasmania at the end of down the bottom, and between the mainland, and probably some around that area. We hope to have these in future. Even though the penetration of wind is 14.2, about 14%, it varies between states. And I had to do this picture. You can see states, I put, for those that don't know Australia, the states are given on the right-hand bottom. South Australia is the gold one, and that has the most wind penetration, and I'm from South Australia, being parochial. I show that this has the highest penetration of round about the 45%. There was a bit of a dip early on, a lot of political goings on has happened. The next highest has been is Victoria, and down the bottom is Queensland, whose wind resource is not as good as those in the bottom part of the country. So the factors determine the viability of wind and solar, and many of you have said this, you need a good resource close to the network, land availability, government support, planning approvals need to be made easy, the availability of finance, and in Australia these have been predominantly for wind, renewable energy certificates and a renewable energy target. And we have high electricity prices, and of course community support is essential, especially good engagement. A lot of projects have been stopped through poor community engagement, including some of the offshore wind projects. The major wind farm operators in Australia are international, and they work together with some Australian companies. And the main turbines commonly used, there's a variety, but with a high percentage from Vestas, and also Suzlon, General Electric, and Goodwin. There is no wind manufacturing in Australia, or virtually none. Mostly it is limited to manufacture of the major components, such like the steel towers and the internal components in the tower, such as platform ladders, cab lights, and fall rest systems. The foundations, of course, is made locally, the concrete, and assembly, maintenance, and servicing is done locally, which helps create local job and expertise. But we do need to have a manufacturing industry, which I hope will come in the future. We did in the past have a small wind industry. Not so much now, but I think it is making a resurgence for the future, which is good. South Australia had a big blackout in 2016, which I'll mention in light of, we'll probably hear from what has happened in Spain. It happened 5 months after our last coal-fired power station was decommissioned, and a big windstorm swept through the state, causing transmission lines to collapse. And the wind systems there were at that stage reasonably new to very high winds, which were over the 200 miles per hour. And the ride-through settings were still at the manufacturer level and hadn't not been altered. So many of the wind turbines are shut down. The interconnector with the eastern states became overloaded, and that shut down. And the gas turbines, which were supposed to front up, they didn't. They managed the Black Start, and they closed down, putting the whole state into blackout. In South Australia at the time, there were just wind, solar, gas turbines, interconnector, and no storage. We have no hydro. The press was very, very dismissive of South Australia and said we had gone too fast into renewables, and that it was not it was all the fault of the wind turbines that the blackout occurred, which of course it wasn't. You can't have electricity going through transmission lines if they're collapsed.
Monica, 2 minutes, please.
Yes. Elon Musk came along and said that he can provide storage, which he did. He's saying that within 100 days, if he can't put in 100 megawatts of storage, we will have to he will give the batteries free, and that's what happened. The government at the time said that the impact of big batteries would be as useful as a big banana or a big prawn tourist attraction on the side of the road, but in fact they were useful and paid back within 2 years, providing frequency call ancillary store services and with security. The blackout did not stop wind renewable growth in Australia. Now I'll pass these through. I just want to mention that you can have, we do have in South Australia occasionally almost 100% renewables. We have an average of 75%, which will go to 100%, we hope, in the next couple of years. Queensland below has a lot of black coal, which is the black, the green, wind, yellow, solar. And that is what base storage looks like. Whereas you don't need that in a grid with good wind and solar. So some factors influencing the future of wind in Australia. We have positives of projected annual growth of 7.7% a year. Price of wind is falling. Decentralisation of production is expected, and we hope to get the new small wind. And the challenges are political and policy uncertainty, which has been in the past. We need good, smart forecasting, which is available, and increased flexible energy storage and increased transmission interconnectors and grid connections. So in conclusion, since the recent federal election and the return of the Labor Party, the future of renewables in Australia is more certain. Hopefully, Australia remains committed to achieving its promised target of 82% renewables by 2030 and 32 gigawatts of additional new renewable capacity. Currently, it's 42% and 44 gigawatts, so there's a long way to go. So we need strong, stable, and effective energy policies and building on knowledge of integrating high penetration variable renewables into electricity grids. Communities, especially those in regional areas, need the information and resources to participate in and benefit from the energy shift. And we don't only need promises, we need implementation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Monica. I think Australia is always a very encouraging picture when you see the progress with the very high share now of solar and wind, in particular South Australia, with a lot of hydro that you have in some states, but also the large batteries. Yeah, thank you. Do we have any questions, comments, very briefly for Monica? I don't see that. I see one, and please try to be short, as we still have or
Yeah,
difference?
Monica, one doubt. In Australia, energy demand, at this moment, renewable energy is contributing 50%. May I understand like that from your presentation?
Yes, about 40% in total in electricity, not energy.
It is 40, 40.
40, yes.
Okay. Because your previous slide shows that, out of 87 gigawatt demand, 44 is from RE. That means 50%. So I thought, okay. So it is 40%.
Yes, of electricity generation.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you for the question and the brief answer as well. With this, now we move back to Europe. It's my pleasure to welcome Robert Navarro, who is chairman of the wind section at the Spanish Renewable Energy Association, APPA. And I do understand your main job is that you work with RWE, which is a German utility, which is active internationally, as we can see. So I assume that you are, in your main job, involved in developing operating wind farms in Spain. Robert, it's a pleasure to have you with us. The floor is yours.
My pleasure. Can you hear me properly? Because, I have the audio in one device and the video on the other one, so it's a little bit tricky. Can you hear me properly?
Yeah.
Okay,
very good.
So I will share my screen then. So, hope you can see my screen. Please confirm.
Yes, excellent.
Okay, perfect. So I will keep it short, Stefan. Don't worry about that. So for Spain, I wanted to share some things with you. First is what is the evolution on the installed power of renewables in Spain over the last years. We have what we call the National Energy Climate Plan, which is on the right of your screen, with some ambitious targets. And on the left, you have the evolution of the different technologies and overall renewable capacity over the last years. You will see three main stages. One is the early stage. Spain was one of the pioneers, I will say, even worldwide, in the development of wind energy and renewable energy in general. Then in 2013, 2014, we have a complete stop due to the retroactive regulatory change engaged by the Spanish government, which triggered a lot of international arbitration claims, as you may be aware. And then we have the third stage of new growth from 2019 on, mainly focused in solar PV and also in wind, but much less. If you see what are the ambitious targets of the National Energy Climate Plan, which is on the left, you will see that we should install in total more than 14 gigawatts each year to reach the plan, and we are far away from that, especially in wind. In 2022, 2023, 2024, we had a remarkable growth of almost 9 gigawatts, which is not enough, but it's not bad. In 2025, we are lagging behind. In wind, we have a lot of, let's say, constraints, problems, environmental, social contestation, and a lot of difficulties. And in solar, due to the effect of the cannibalization in prices and the let's say, doubts that are raising about the profitability of the projects. So it seems that will be, if not impossible, extremely difficult to reach this plan. In the next slide, you have the same information that just reported to wind. As you can easily see, we have the three stages, and over the last years, we are installing new capacity, but not really far away from the goals that we have in order to comply with these targets of the National Energy Climate Plan. Then you have the production, let's say the production mix or the production breakdown in Spain between all the renewable energy. The main one is wind. As you can see. And then you have solar. Solar is increasing. And then you have also the hydro. Hydro is quite volatile because it depends on the hydroelectricity. So We had a lot of rain over the last 2 years, 2024, 2025. So hydro is having a significant share in the total production. But in some years, in a dry year, it is much less. And then you have all the other things like solar thermal, waste, and so on. Concerning power versus generation, so you will have in this graph, and you will observe how wind had evolved very, very little over the last years, from 27.7 to 32 gigawatts on installed capacity in I would say, probably 5 years, because I do not expect a lot of megawatts to get into operation this year, while solar has increased to the extent of overpassing wind in 2025. By the end of 2024, you still see more installed wind capacity than solar, but in 2025, solar has already overpassed wind with some 33 gigawatts of installed capacity. This will probably stop due to the thing that I was commenting to you about the cannibalization of prices that we'll see in the later slides. This is the fact that solar is having more or less the same installed power than wind, but less production is obviously due to the lower load factor average of solar and wind. In Spain, solar PV can have 2,000 load hours or less in the best places. In wind, of course, especially with the new turbines, we can reach 3,000, even 3,500 without major problems. Okay, so in the next slide, you will have all the evolution of the wind capacity in Spain that we were commenting in the previous slides, with the characteristic that the production has not evolved positively over the last year. So probably some people think that this could be due to the climate change and changing the wind condition, but the fact is that 2024 was worse than 2023, even with more capacity, and 2025 is not looking very well right now. This is something that is also affecting some other countries in Europe, as far as I know. Concerning the distribution among the months, nothing is surprising. So the first years and last years, the first month and the last month of the year are more the most, let's say, profitable one in terms of production. Then prices. Prices is one of probably the most relevant challenge in Spain lately, because we are suffering of a lot of, I would not say suffering, but we are having a lot of renewable penetration, and this is leading to that cannibalization, and this is collapsing the prices some hours of the day. So you will see that, also no surprise, between March and May with April are the worst month of the year in terms of price. This is due to the mild temperatures together with a lot of irradiation, who is producing a lot of photovoltaic production. And also after summer, so in autumn, in fall, you will have more or less the same effect, but not that high, because the solar production is not so significant as it is in the month of March of April. If you have the capture rate, if you look at the capture rate, you will see on the right side of the screen, you will see what is commenting that the solar PV, sorry for some mentions in Spanish, but I think it is more or less understood. The solar PV is having the worst capture rate with 0.72, while biomass, it is manageable, and biogas as well, and wind is having, let's say, not positive, but still not as bad as the solar PV capture rate of 0.88%, 0.88. And last but not least, the balancing services. The high renewable penetration is making the management of the grid much more challenging over the last years, and the blackout that we have that we had 1 month ago is a demonstration that this is difficult. Of course, this is not to blame the renewables, but it is true that with a lot of renewable penetration, with not synchronous capacity, is making the balancing of the grid quite challenging. For this reason, all the services related to the balance of grid has become much more important, and also the compensation and or the income related to these services have increased over the last years. This is a daily distribution from 2020 to 2024, and this is the monthly distribution over the last year. This was more or less everything from my side. Last but not least, concerning challenges for the future, I have not mentioned anything about offshore wind. For offshore wind, I would like to mention that due to the death of the seabed in Spain, bottom fixed offshore wind is not feasible. So we have to go for floating technologies. Floating technologies, as you know, are in an early stage. So nothing has been installed in Spain so far. Just one wind turbine on which we are collaborating, WWEA. But the massive implementation of this technology is still lacking. We will see. There is a plan to install 3 gigawatts for 2030. Let's see if this is going to take place or not. And also, it's important to mention from my side that apart from installing new capacity, there is one significant challenge in Spain, which is repowering the system turbines. We were one of the pioneers, as we say, in wind technology, wind energy worldwide. We have a lot of old turbines in good places on which with new machines, the performance could be much better. So without touching the grid, we could produce much more electricity. But the problem is that in most of the cases, the business case of repowering is worse than the business case of extending the life. So we need some kind of public aid in order to capture this possibility of increasing the production without touching the grid. So we need to think about that as a country, and we need to find a solution to ensure this repowering that the system, I think, needs. And I think this is everything from my side.
Yeah, thank you very much, Robert. I think that was a very also realistic picture. Spain really one of the pioneers of the European wind development. And to some degree, it's also normal that countries like India, China are taking over the not so in terms of population countries like Spain or even Germany. No? I'm looking around here whether there are any questions, because I can imagine there are questions for you. In that particular case, Carlo, I've seen that that was raising your hand.
Yes, thank you, Robert. That was very interesting, and for us, it's always interesting to see what happened in other countries by changing from a centralized system, fossil system, to the decentralized system, and therefore it was for us very interesting to see what happening around the discussion with the blackout in Spain and Portugal, and therefore it was good that you said it has nothing to do with renewable. There was 70%, as far as I know, 70% of renewable power at this time in the system, but it's not the reason of the blackout, and it's therefore. If you have information about that, for us in Germany, it's very important, because our German government looks what can happen when we have the world. Can this situation, can this also happen in Germany? And we need good arguments and statistic to tell the government, no, it's not because of the change of the system. There are the reasons which are important. So thank you very much for that, and we should connect with that to give good answers to this question.
Because, to be honest, we don't have yet a clear outcome of the investigation about the blackout. There is also a risk that at the end we don't know exactly the reason, because there is a fight between the TSO and the private companies and so on, and there are a lot of political implications for people who is taking advantage of the situation to fight against the enemy, let's say this way. What is clear from my side, and I want to take too much time about that, is that first, this is not a fault of the renewables. But we have to recognize that integrating a lot of renewable energy in a system is making the balancing much more difficult and much more complicated. Having said this, the Spanish TSO has a lot of experience, and it's an example, international example, of how to integrate renewables. So maybe a mistake was done, maybe it wasn't, I don't know. But in any case, we should not panic about that and just investigate and make sure that we can integrate renewables in the grid without this risk, which I convinced it is possible. There are technology for that.
Yeah, thank you. I think, Robert, it's actually indeed something that's relevant not only for Europeans, Germany. I think that's really an important discussion, but around the world. I guess we should do a separate event for that, because we could now continue discussing those questions. Speculative, probably most of it still. Still, thanks a lot. Very insightful, your presentation, and of course we wish you good luck. I mean, we had like a year ago an event about repowering, and I know that Arena, we work on that, where there's driven by the discussion by Spanish colleagues. So I'm personally aware that that's an issue, which is also now becoming more and more important for other countries. Now, thanks again. With this, I would like then to move to the next speaker, to the next country. And our next speaker is Dr. Rebecca, and sorry if I'm not pronouncing the name correctly, Windemer.
Yeah, that's correct.
From the organization Regen, and I think is best is that you present your organization. I think it's a kind of community-focused organization that works also on developing wind energy. It's a great pleasure to have you here presenting the situation in the United Kingdom. So I hand over to you.
Thank you. I will just share my screen. Okay, hi everyone. I'm Rebecca Windemer, and I'll be talking you through key trends in wind energy in the UK. Yeah, so just a brief introduction to my organisation, Regen. We're a not-for-profit centre of renewable energy expertise. So we're a mission-led organisation helping to achieve the move towards net zero energy across the UK. And we focus on the whole energy system, including a focus on ensuring a fast and fair transition. So really including that community aspect as well. So I'm going to talk you through what we've been seeing in terms of onshore wind and offshore wind. And then I'll conclude with a bit about the current energy target in the UK at the moment. So firstly, just a quick overview of onshore wind in the UK. Currently, we have over 15.5 gigawatts of onshore wind capacity in operation. Most of this is in Scotland. That's where most of our large onshore wind farms are located. But across the UK, as well as what we're hearing elsewhere, the key challenges are the planning system, the time taken to get planning being too slow, and grid delays linked to the need to build more grid transmission infrastructure. And a kind of key aspect that I'll be discussing is also around that kind of community engagement and making sure we're bringing people with us on this journey as well. So just to provide a bit of an overview of what's been happening over the past 10 years. So this graph breaks the UK down into the nations of Scotland, England, Northern Ireland, and Wales. It shows that most of our capacity is being built in Scotland. What we can really see there is that kind of significant increase in the years leading up to the COVID-19 pandemic. We then see that drop off. And we've seen in recent years the market kind of really starting to come back. What's particularly significant is what we've seen happen in England. So in 2015 in England, the government said that they didn't want to build any more onshore wind in England. Politically, the government at the time was very anti-onshore wind. They put in something called a written ministerial statement, which was essentially a very quick way of changing the planning policy. So what that did is, whereas before onshore wind was treated in the planning system in the same way as other renewables, when they put in that change of policy in 2015, it made it so there were two really difficult barriers on onshore wind in England. Firstly, onshore wind had to be built in areas identified as suitable for onshore wind, and local authorities had to identify those areas. And the second criteria is that onshore wind farms had to have community backing. On the face of it, that may not sound too difficult, but it was, because local authorities weren't given any support to identify areas for onshore wind. They didn't know how to do it, so no one was really identifying areas. And then the wording around community support made it so difficult that even one local community objection could mean that the onshore wind farm got refused. So from 2015 until last year, we didn't see any onshore wind farms in England getting planning consent. Fortunately, that policy did change last year. So now we are seeing onshore wind return to England. I know there's one project and planning at the moment for quite a large site, but we're expecting a lot of the sites in England to be relatively small single turbine projects or repowering projects. And the impact of this policy change in onshore wind is kind of evident that since 2020, just 3 onshore wind sites have become operational in England, totaling 10 megawatts of generation in total, whereas in that time we had 1 gigawatt of capacity come online in Scotland and Wales. So the case of onshore wind in England really shows that significant impact that a change in planning policy can have on the sector. The other key item that we're seeing happening at the moment, which links to some of the discussions we've already seen today, is repowering. So in the UK, almost all of our onshore wind farms have 25-year planning consents. If they're not repowered, legally they have to be removed at the end of the 25 years. A lot of wind farms are really starting to reach the end of that planning consent now. So repowering is a key consideration. We did some looking at the data at Regen, and based upon sites repowering when they reach the end of 20 years, we've noted that over 400 megawatts of capacity should be up for repowering each year between now and 2030. So repowering is going to be really significant. Part of that, a kind of key part of that, will be speaking to those communities, getting the communities on side for those repowering applications, and repowering in a way that benefits the environment, the technology, as well as the people living nearby to those sites. So that was my quick overview of onshore. The UK has also had rapid growth in offshore wind. So this just gives you a bit of an idea of the annual installed offshore wind capacity. And what you'll see here is that most of our capacity is based in England. And you can see those kind of key spikes happening when our kind of large offshore wind projects have been being developed. And it's been a real kind of growth sector for the UK in recent years. So at the moment, we've got 15.6 gigawatts of offshore wind operational, but we have about the same amount again currently under construction or having secured a contract for difference. from the UK government. Contracts for Difference is our financial support mechanism in the UK. And an additional 54.3 gigawatts has been awarded a lease from the Crown Estate. So in the UK, all of our offshore seabed is leased from the Crown, so the Crown Estate. And they've kind of essentially given that lease to certain offshore wind developments. So they're kind of potential sites that could be coming forward in the future. A couple of projects that may be recognizable, two of our biggest projects. So the Hornsey wind farms, currently 7.5 gigawatts across 4 stages of that project. And the Dogger Bank wind farms, which comprise 6.6 gigawatts spread across 5 stages. And in that, in the calculations I put here, that also includes 2 operational floating offshore wind projects comprising 80 megawatts. So we're just starting to see the kind of development of floating offshore wind as a sector in the UK. In terms of challenges facing the offshore wind sector, we've had real rising construction costs, issues with supply chain and higher interest rates. And this has been leading to project delays recently. You may have heard of Ørsted's decision to halt the 2.4 gigawatt Hornsey 4 project. So those kind of increasing costs are a real risk to our development at the moment. The UK government is proposing changes to the financial support mechanisms, so the Contracts for Difference CFD scheme, to try and kind of speed up the development of offshore wind, reduce costs to bill payers, and overcome some of those delays associated with costs. Like with onshore wind, the planning and consenting process is still too slow. There's a lot of consultation at the moment about how we could speed up the planning system, and offshore wind projects have been identified as a critical national priority to try to give them that kind of focus in the planning system. And the other challenge we're seeing in the offshore sector at the moment is wake effects between projects. So as we're seeing more projects being built in similar locations, the impacts of that on the impacts of a new project on an existing project has been a key area of concern and kind of under further investigation. But kind of overall,
try to conclude in a minute, that'd be great.
Yep. So the kind of overarching narrative at the moment in the UK is what we're calling Clean Power 2030. And what that means is it's our focus to try to get to clean energy within the next 5 years. So the aim is that by 2030, Great Britain will generate enough clean power to meet our total annual electricity demand, backed up by an unabated gas supply to be only used when essential. So across England, Wales and Scotland, there's this real focus on building renewables as quickly as possible. The target for onshore is 27 to 29 gigawatts of capacity by 2030. And the target for offshore is 43 to 50 gigawatts. So we've got ambitious targets. We've got the planning reforms in place to try and help achieve this. The UK government's had an onshore wind task force to try and speed up onshore wind. We're developing a strategic spatial energy plan to try and kind of focus on strategic planning of renewables and grid infrastructure. So really, I would say in the UK at the moment, it's that focus on speed, but also we're having a lot of consultations around community involvement, community benefits. So it's kind of fast but fair as the kind of the key messages coming through at the moment. Thank you.
Yeah, excellent. It was a very, again, realistic overview of what's happened. I think it's very impressive to see also how the onshore wind development stopped and then started again, or while it was ongoing in Scotland and in Wales. Great prospects for 2030, and of course, we wish you all to achieve that. Do we have any questions, comments directly for Rebecca? That's a really very interesting, and especially I do appreciate also that you have this kind of eye on community engagement as well. Wind Energy Association, I think Irfan has already indirectly mentioned that we are currently developing international community engagement standards. So be happy to, of course, have everyone who has something to contribute as part of that to have some recommendations. So again, thank you, Rebecca. Then we are leaving Europe and going now to South America. And it's my pleasure, Everaldo, to have you now as our next speaker presenting the second largest market for new wind turbines of last year, 2024, Brazil. Hand over to you.
Thank you very much, Stefan. It's a pleasure to have all of our friends together. And I do not have slide presentation. I'm going to emphasize in 5 points. I think I'm going to be very quick for this presentation. Well, the first point, it's very important to mention that Brazil is number 5 at the moment in the world. So we have in the wind sector a total installed capacity of 34 gigawatts. 3-4 gigawatts. Yeah. And we have been planning a kind of annual addition of installed capacity, something like 3,000 megawatts per year. So this was the situation, what I call the steady state behavior of the wind sector. So we have been living in Brazil a kind of nirvana state. Nirvana state in which you have a very good winds, we have very good price, we have financing, we have most of the wind turbine manufacturing installed in Brazil, manufacturing wind turbines and jobs, and this was the best of the best moments of the wind energy sector. And so you have the second point that I would like to stress is the grid integration. So some points are important to mention the Brazilian situation. The first one is that most of the projects are located in the north region of Brazil, in which we have 60 million people, and nearly 100% of the electricity is generated by renewables. So most of the electricity is used for the region and also for export. But we have the bottlenecks, the critical point of the transmission line. The government has decided to start construction with the international bid, and some of the Chinese companies have won the bid for 3 main transmission lines. One of more than 3,000 kilometers, 3,400, 3.4 thousand kilometers, and another one of 1,800 kilometers. So just to give you an idea, it's 2 big transmission lines. One, I like this kind of comparison, from Berlin to Marrakesh in Morocco, and another one from Berlin to Moscow in Russia. So these are the 2 big transmission lines that are being built in Brazil at the moment for the flow of electrons from the northeast region to the south region of Brazil. So in reality, we have to wait up to 2029, something like 4 years, in which we will have these 2 transmission lines in operation. So this is the main position at the moment, and all the actors in the wind energy sector are waiting for these new transmission lines in order to increase the annual install capacity as we have planned. So the grid integration is the first point that I have emphasized. The second point that I would like to emphasize, the strong competition from the solar sector. So what has happened in Brazil is a kind of revolution. So Brazil is the third country in the world of solar installation after China and India. So we have at the moment 34 gigawatts of wind installed capacity, but in the last 5 years, we have reached more than 50 gigawatts of solar power in Brazil, 50. So in only 5 years, the solar sector has increased, and it's interesting that most of them is distributed power. In other words, nearly 34 gigawatts are for small business, houses, and so on. And this has been a very strong war against the transmission space. In other words, the residential and small business solar, in which we have around 34 gigawatts, are competing with space for wind. And as they have priority, we are lacking space for transmission lines for the wind energy sector. So this is a very strong competition. And just to give to all of you an idea, just in 2025, this year, we are going to add 20 gigawatts of solar, in the main transmission lines in Brazil for distributed power. So the competition here between the small solar, in which we are going to reach nearly 70 gigawatts, and the wind sector, in which we at the moment have 34, is very strong. And of course, the small solar is winning all the time, because the priority for legislation, the priority for connection is for small system for solar. So in reality, I think we are going to have a kind of 4 years of vacuum in the increased installations of wind farms in Brazil after 2029. Another point that I would like to touch is the offshore wind. We have in the northeast region of Brazil also very good specific sites for offshore wind. Why? Because most of the waters are in a depth of between 30 and 50 meters. So we do not need floating structures for offshore. And also the government has started a new development plan and new legislation and new policies and new financing schemes in which offshore will take off really in Brazil. I really consider the offshore as new Brazil's hydro. So in 5-10 years' time, we are going to see offshore as the hydro plants in Brazil, in which during the last 5 decades have been the dominant sector of energy generation in Brazil. And the last point is the green hydrogen. If you consider the lowest prices of capex for offshore wind and also the good harbor in infrastructure, we also have the cheapest hydrogen for export. So a lot of large plants for hydrogen using offshore wind are in place, and a lot of projects will be ready in the next 5 years. So these are my main points that I would like to emphasize and transmit the news for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Everaldo. I think that was also very insightful and very interesting. It's interesting because you sound not so confident when it comes to onshore wind, but still you installed so much. So you expect that there will not continue
the onshore. No, we'll continue, but we are going to have a slow process of implementation during the next 4 years until we can really have the new transmission lines in place.
Yes, thank you very much. Do we have any comments, questions here for Everaldo? No, that seems not the case. Again, thank you very much. I think very interesting to hear really firsthand from Brazil. All those, also, I think the competition with solar, which we could also talk about other countries, is really amazing, the growth that we see there. Now I see already our last, for sure not least speaker from North America, Richard Legault from, yeah, you're based in Canada, but you will speak about Canada and the United States. I'm very grateful that we have you here. You are working actually for the company Eocycle, which is more in the small wind sector, which we have not really touched yet. But I think it's a good opportunity to conclude this with you as a final speaker. Also, maybe at the end, you can say a few words about that. And now we look forward to hearing from you about the market development in North America.
All right. So can you hear me well?
Yes.
And can you see my presentation?
It's not exactly presentation mode, but we can see it.
Is it? Let me see if I can do better. About this?
Yeah, it's a Mac. You have a Mac probably, right?
No, I don't.
No? But
I'm
I
not
have that
used with
often
as familiar with Zoom than I am with.
But I mean, we can see it like this as well.
Okay. So thank you, Stefan. Thank you, and hi everyone. Happy to be here today. So today is gonna be a kind of a David versus Goliath presentation. I will be covering both the Canada and the United States. And I'm coming from the big wind industry where I worked for a few decades. Now I'm with Eocycle. We're providing self-production, small wind solutions to the ag and CNI sectors in Europe and in America. So I will start with first a few words on Canada. So in terms of installed capacity, Canada went from 683 megawatt in 2005 to over 15,000 megawatt in 2022. In the last, if we look in the last 3 years, from 2023 to 2025, we see installed capacity of 660 megawatt in 2023, 840 megawatt in 2024, and over 1,000 in 2025. So in Canada, we see about 1,000 megawatt or 1 gigawatt installed. It's growing, it's increasing, has been increasing annually since the past 3 years. Canada is driven by 3 main provinces, Ontario, Quebec, and Alberta. And in Canada, we essentially only talk about onshore because we have a lot of land. We have fantastic wind resource in almost every provinces. We also have very big utilities driving this process. So here we have in Quebec a total installed capacity of over 4,000 megawatt. In Ontario, we have over 5,000 megawatt. Same thing here in Alberta. So those are the 3 provinces driving wind. And also interesting thing is the wind industry is still dominating solar, I would say. Solar is picking up, but it's mostly a wind-driven country. The air is pretty dense because of cold weather. And again, the wind resources are very, very strong, very, very good quality. Now, if we move to the United States, generally speaking, there's about 10 times more people in the US than there is in Canada. It's true of the GDP is about 10 times bigger. Same in wind. So we see figures in the US being about 10 times more than in Canada. The installed capacity went from 2.5 gigawatt to 140 gigawatt at the end of 2022. If we look at the installed capacity in the past 3 years, we have 8 gigawatt in 2023, same in 24, and not too sure about 2025, actually. There may be a rush going on, and I will get into the politics of the United States, which is really driving the whole thing in a moment. In the US, we have 3 leading states, Texas being by far the biggest one in terms of cumulative and installed capacity. Iowa is another big one with 10 gigawatt installed, and Oklahoma here with close to 12,000 megawatt, 12 gigawatt installed. United States also has a fantastic resource in the Midwest here in this region. Lots of land, lots of space, fairly easy permitting process, reasonably easy compared to other places like Europe and the UK. So it's a country that has a huge onshore potential, and that explains somewhat the I would say the lack of offshore projects. So the key market players in Canada, on the left side here, we have developers and investors, include essentially what we call IPPs, independent power producers. In the US, it's also pretty much the same thing with those players that are coming from the US, but also from Europe. We look at the turbine manufacturers in Canada, we have the usual players, but we see no Chinese company, which is something interesting to mention. And in the US, we have Mingyang, which is the only Chinese player. So although China has, I think, set in at the top 10 turbine manufacturers, they have not yet very much broken through the North American market for different reasons. But I expect that could change in Canada. We don't know about the US. It doesn't look too good right now, but that's a political discussion. The market segment, if we look at on and offshore, in Canada, as I mentioned, it's literally essentially onshore market, again, because of land, but also because the energy consumption is not that much close to the sea. And so there's really no reason to do offshore. And again, the price of electricity in Canada is usually quite low in terms of price per kilowatt hour. And so I don't really see a huge potential for offshore in Canada. In the US, it's also a very much an onshore market. There's been an attempt to push for offshore projects in the US. And when you think about it, it doesn't make much sense when you look at the cost, because again, in the US, like Canada, the cost of electricity is pretty low. And US has a lot of options in terms of resources, whether it be fossil fuel, gas. But there is an issue with the grid in the US. Lots of demand, let's say, on the East Coast, but the grid has limitations. So all this production that I presented in the Midwest is very difficult to bring to the consumption point on the East Coast. So from that point of view, offshore on the East Coast makes some sense. But with the actual administration, it's extremely difficult, not to say impossible, to do offshore because of kind of a ban that has been put on land right or offshore rights on the East Coast. So the key market drivers in Canada, there will be, like in many other places, a huge need for more electrification of things. The AI and everything will really put pressure, or already put pressure, on the Canadian utilities. Like in Quebec, there's a shortfall of electricity at the moment. Same thing in Ontario, and so you will see, I would expect, massive requests for proposals and onshore wind projects being built. Climate change is still an issue, not so much in the US, as I'm sure you have all heard of, but in Canada, we're keeping with our new government recently elected, we're keeping the focus on climate change. And there's also going to be more and more need for auto production. People producing their own electricity will become a market, we believe, because of the incapacity of the local utilities to provide the needed electricity. So in Canada, there's a shortfall of energy production, which will drive the wind industry in the years to come. In the US, there is also a massive need for more electricity, even more than in Canada, but there's a shortfall of options. Gas turbines are becoming extremely expensive, not available until 2030. Grid congestions. Climate change is still an issue, but not at the federal level, it's at the state level. And federal policies are becoming a super big issue in the US. That's why I'm putting an exclamation point here. The present administration, as I think you all know, is very much supportive of fossil fuel, not at all of wind, especially offshore. And the US industry has been what we call hollow and bust, meaning it's been up and down, very dependent on production tax credit or investment tax credit. And so those have driven the wind industry and the solar industry for the past decades. And as of last week, the House of Representatives, the Congress has voted for a bill which basically kills the ITC and the PTC starting next year. And so there may be a rush this year for wind projects, but right now we see no visibility for more projects in the coming years, unless the Senate, and US politics is a bit complicated, but the House voted for a bill that essentially kills wind in the US, practically. But the Senate will review that bill and seem to have a different position. So we'll see how things unfold in the next few months. We should know by summer. But as we stand, it's looking very grim. But it could turn around. And we're seeing things go up and down in the US. So we have to stay positive. But it's the wind industry and solar industry are going through tough times at the moment. In terms of projections, in Canada, we see a bright outlook for wind. Again, Canada is a wind country. And so we see, or at least in terms of target, the Canadian Renewable Energy Association targets 5, 6, now we're talking gigawatt, not megawatt anymore in Canada, becoming a main wind market. So 5, 6 gigawatt of wind and solar per year. And 2050 long-term vision from the association is to add 3.8 gigawatt of new wind energy capacity annually to bring the total installed capacity to 100 gigawatts. So those are projections from the association. Of course, they're very bullish, very positive. But when I look at the drivers and the needs, the fundamentals are there. I expect Canada to become, maybe in the short term, even a bigger market in the US. Things should turn around in the midterm, but Canada is on a positive track. In the US, as I mentioned, I mean, those are projections that come from the different associations, but which are also very bullish, but those date back a few months ago, and the situation has changed drastically last week, and it negatively, and it could swing the other way around positively in a few months. So we'll see. I think it's very important to keep track of the details and the policies to be voted in the short term. One thing to mention is that the Department of Energy produced a very exhaustive study a few years ago showing a potential of close to 1,000 gigawatt of capacity that could be installed under distributed wind or small wind, which would represent 50% of the electricity needs in the US. And that potential is actually bigger than offshore. So the United States has a lot of distributed small wind potential for the short and midterm. And of course, that's what Eocycle, my company, we're going after for farms and CNI. And so have to keep an eye on the future development. Thank you very much. Is there any question?
Thank you very much, Richard. I think it's a very interesting point of time, of course, when you look at the situation now in the US, as you rightly pointed out. Really, I mean, I think everybody is every day listening to the news, surprised, not only in terms of energy policies. So we really have to see. But I think it's very interesting what you said about also the distributed aspect. And I believe that also to some degree brings us back to the European case in Spain, because some experts, grid experts, they say what we actually need is a cellular grid, which means that if there is a blackdown like happening recently in a part of Spain, you can decouple some cells, some areas, and small wind or such batteries, they could play a role to stabilize and keep at least the power in some regions. Do we have any questions, comments here for Richard? I don't see that here. Then again, a great thank you to you. And especially, I mean, you waited all the time, although you had to wake up early. We put you as the last speaker because we thought you may need some time kind of to wake up. A big thank you, but also at the same time to our speakers in the East, because for them it's already late night in the evening now. Yes, I believe that that kind of concludes also our meeting today. I'd say again, thank you very much for really very insightful presentations, as we said, covering the top 10 wind power markets around the world. We will have a second webinar where we then deal with the kind of 10 to 20 medium-sized wind power markets. But I believe this is very important, and especially in the light of the geopolitical situation, it's more important than ever that we have this exchange, international exchange. Irfan, as you've already mentioned, again, an invitation to come to China in December this year to our 22nd World Wind Energy Conference. Yes, with this, I would say, again, a big thank you to everyone. The recordings of this webinar will be available, so you will be able to watch again the presentations of certain countries if you like. Thank you. Have a good day. Have a good night wherever you are. And we look forward to seeing you again. And in the meantime, wish you a lot of success for your work for a renewable energy world. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
everybody. Bye-bye.